Alrighty, we'll get started in less than a minute. Let's see if there's any more that want to join us. Get my lighting right here. Okay. All right, cool. Welcome. So in this webinar, we're going to talk about digestion and how the gut works and what it tells you. So I'll start off with a few questions that I had from some of our clients around the world. So somebody asked, okay, so they're eating a lot of greens, drinking a lot of water, but they are constipated. Okay, so constipation is, there's obviously various things that cause constipation, but usually when you're eating a lot of greens, and especially if you're drinking a lot of water, which means you shouldn't really be constipated. So if you are, then that would mean that your food that you're eating is absorbing all the water and it's causing the blockage in the colon. So when you're eating a lot of greens, especially if you're not used to it, like so people come out of the standard American diet, the SAD diet, and they come on a program like this and they start to eat a lot of greens. Their gut flora in their large intestine is not necessarily set up or evolved to handle the greens. In actual fact, more specifically, the fiber. So fiber then absorbs all the water and it causes a blockage. So that's usually what causes it. On our program, we often run into that where people start eating greens and it's more greens than they are used to. And sorry, I'm just going to turn this light a little bit. It looks like I'm a ghost. All right, so there's more greens than they're used to, and their body just can't, their gut just can't digest it. So that fiber goes through, it causes a lot of gas. It actually causes slow weight loss. So if you are not absorbing or digesting the fiber like you should do, that's what it'll do. It'll give you digestion. It may actually do the opposite, which is actually not really the opposite. It's the same thing. Constipation, diarrhea, basically mostly the same causes. So if you're getting diarrhea or you're getting constipated or eating a lot of greens, that's the reason for it. It's got to do with the fiber. So you should be able to have a bowel movement by drinking a lot of water, but all that water is being sucked out of the colon and into the poop, basically. So that's the reason for that. I mean, other than that, there may not be enough in your diet. There may not be enough bile that you're producing, or you may have a blocked bile duct or a sludgy gallbladder or something like that would also cause it. So there's what I would suggest is, especially if you're bloated and you've got pains in your stomach, like bloating pains in your stomach, like indigestion, and you're constipated, I would go with a little bit of a carnivore type of diet for a little while. Carnivore diet has its uses. There's no doubt about that. It can definitely help someone who has this issue, as they switch over onto a more of a healthy type of food, and switch out of the ultra processed, mainline food that you get in the US and around the world. So that's what I would do. Go on a carnivore diet. Continue to eat sauerkraut, because sauerkraut is already half digested. In other words, it's already fermented. So when you eat it, it goes in, and the microbes that are there to break down fiber and break down vegetable substances, they get to multiply on the sauerkraut. So the sauerkraut is also full of digestive enzymes. It's really good for digestion. So eating sauerkraut with every meal is definitely a plus point. You can definitely improve your digestion by doing that. So then those microbes start evolving and they start becoming stronger and stronger and stronger, and they're not as overwhelmed as they were when you first started eating vegetables. So as you're going along with this carnivore diet for a little while, it depends on how bad you are off with digesting fiber, but I would go with probably 2 to 3 weeks on carnivore, but keep introducing sauerkraut so that those gut microbes can start building again. And then as you go along, start adding some vegetables in, dark leafy green type vegetables. And, you can cook them, because then it's also easier to digest. So vegetables, funnily enough, are the hardest thing to digest. People don't realize that. They think, red meat's bad for you. It causes all sorts of trouble in your digestive system. It is absolutely rubbish. Red meat is the easiest thing to digest. It literally gets digested and goes straight through. It's not like vegetables. Vegetables are what, stop you up or cause the diarrhea or whatever it might be. So I hope that answered your question. Something there may have indicated to you. All right, cool. Then the next one is, what is the best long-term diet for gut health? Now, obviously, a healthy diet, a diet that doesn't contain pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, a diet that contains a large amount of cruciferous vegetables, a diet that contains your healthy fats, a diet that contains your red meats, your white meats, your fish, and so on, and a diet that doesn't contain sugar and processed carbohydrates. So that's the best for a healthy gut. But obviously, again, like with answering the last question, you may have to work your way into that so that your digestive system, doesn't get overwhelmed by the healthy food. But that is the way forward as far as digestion goes. And there are certain things that may need tweaking when you start eating a healthy diet, because like a low-fat diet or a highly ultra-processed food type of diet, that will cause all sorts of issues with the pancreas, producing digestive enzymes. It'll cause all sorts of problems with the liver, and also the gallbladder getting sludgy and then not creating enough bile. And I'm going to get into the whole bile thing just now, because that is one of the most important parts of the digestive system. Not that any one part is the most important there. It's an organism that works together and has to be working together in symbiosis for it to work. Otherwise, it cascades into different problems in the digestive system. And the digestive system is everything. It literally is everything. You have to look after your digestive system. So these things like Ozempic, and they are going to mess up your digestive system. It's not how it's supposed to work. It's firstly full of chemicals. It's made by a major pharmaceutical company that has never been known to cure anything. So I wouldn't go that way. I would rather go, if you want to do some kind of a GLP-1 enhancer, then go with a natural product. All right, so the best long-term diet is that once you get your digestive system working properly, which is not too bad. It's not too hard to do that. Sometimes there's a bit of probiotics that you've got to put in there, maybe some bile salts that you've got to take to smooth out your gallbladder, with a little bit of digestive enzymes, so that you can get the pancreas working properly, because the pancreas has also various functions. It creates insulin, it creates digestive enzymes, and so on. So once you have your digestive system working properly, absolutely you need to be eating the right food. When I say red meat and white meat and so on, I'm not talking about like processed meat. I'm talking about organic, hormone-free meat. I'm not. If these animals have been feeding on GMO type feeds, like the ultra processed feeds, you're basically getting ultra processed food in there. These animals are sick. These cattle that they farm on these bulk beef farms, these cattle are sick. And if you eat that, you get that. It's not like, this is a nice piece of steak, really nice, high quality, it's nice and soft and so on. It's all engineered to be that way and to taste nice and to have a nice texture in your mouth and everything. It isn't healthy. You will taste the difference if you get like the proper red meat. I remember a few years ago, I was out in the middle of nowhere here in KwaZulu-Natal, in a place called the Valley of 1,000 Hills, and it's very, very like thick Zulu territory, and very, very like backward, great area. But I mean that in a bad way. It's very backward. I could live there. It's like really nice. So I was treated to a meal there, and it was literally they'd slaughtered a cow right there, a cow that grazed on the grass around the guy's little hut, and they'd slaughtered this cow as part of a ceremony, and they chopped this cow up with a machete, and got all the meat off there, and I ate this meat. It was like yellow fat meat, which is like the stuff you want, and this meat was just, it tasted different, man. It was just like so pure and so natural. So that's the kind of stuff that you're after. And you do get that in the US. So you just got to look for it. And that's the thing, once you've found all your sources of food, you'll be fine. So you need to find a good farmer that does, good meat, and a good farmer that does good veggies and so on. That's the best long-term diet. All right. Someone asked one. It's a little bit off topic, but I'll answer it anyway. I'll just go quickly into this one. This is about the lymphatic system. And how can one, so the lymphatic system basically, it's almost like the circulatory system. So it's like the circulation of the lymphatic system works in a similar way to your arteries and your veins. So it also carries hormones, and it carries chemicals, and it carries all sorts of things, and it filters out toxins. It also alerts certain glands in the body to pathogens or viruses that have infected the body. Like in your leg, you start getting a swollen, groin, or under your arm, or in your neck here. And that's all part of the lymphatic system. And you get little lymph nodes in your stomach that filter out toxins out of your intestines and all this kind of thing. So a bad lymphatic system, it comes from a bad diet, firstly. Secondly, it comes from a very sedentary lifestyle. So if it'll be one of those two. So what you need to do is get yourself a rebounder, like one of the little trampolines, and you do that every day. And it's a very common handling for the lymphatic system, and the reason why it's common is because it really, really works. So you get yourself a rebounder, do a bit of rebounding every day, once or twice a day, and what it starts to do is it starts to get that lymphatic system stimulated. Don't do it too much in the beginning, because you don't want to be shaking all those toxins out into your system, and that could be overwhelming. Okay, Kimberly, I'll answer you in a sec. I just want to get through these ones here. All right, joints, aches, or pains during perimenopause. So that is probably related to adrenal fatigue. So when someone goes into menopause or perimenopause, you're gonna find that the ovaries have less and less of a function, and the adrenal glands start to take over, and they secrete all sorts of inflammatory hormones that, like cortisol. In overdrive, these hormones can cause all sorts of stiffness and all sorts of issues with the joints and the muscles. So what I would suggest is vitamin D3, and this is for the males too, Stephen. So vitamin D3, K2. That is a must. Like in your life, vitamin D3, K2. So vitamin D has so many functions. It activates calcium to be absorbed, and the K2 makes the calcium get absorbed in the correct areas and not in the joints and in the muscles. The other thing that you should also look at if you're struggling with stiffness, especially if you wake up in the morning, is too much iron in your blood. So that'll cause an oxidative. Basically, you're going to rust inside. So if you have that issue, never ever take an iron supplement. Never ever take an iron supplement. You will get too much iron, and the body really struggles to rid itself of iron. It's one of the hardest things for the body to do. It's this metal that just hangs on in your body, and it causes all sorts of cellular damage. So you don't want an iron supplement. Even if you are someone who has heavy bleeding on your period or something like that, don't go with that. Rather go with like organ meats, red meats, so on. But if you have too much iron, avoid those things. So you avoid all these like high iron foods, which is mostly red meats and organ meats. Stay away from that. So that would be one of the things you could deal with with stiffness in the joints and so on. Vitamin D3, K2, and reducing your iron content in your body. All right, cool. So then the next question here was balancing hormones and how do they affect aging, female, 65. Okay, so it's a good question, that, because I tell you what, the deal with balancing hormones, especially for females. So menopause, it's a horrible thing if you haven't prepared your body for it. And the best way to prepare your body for it, and it's also not the easiest way, is get your adrenal glands handled, before, like when you're in your mid-40s, before menopause starts, or early 40s, start getting your adrenal glands sorted. Start making sure that, you're getting the stress. I can't tell you how you must handle your stress. I would stop watching TV and reading the newspaper and, that kind of thing. That's how I would stop stress, and, laugh a lot. It sounds like a theety-weety solution. Laughing a lot is probably the best solution. And laugh at nothing. Laugh at problems. Like I crashed my car, ha, ha, ha. That's really how you need to deal with it, because it's not going to change anything if you get all stressed out. But it is incredibly important for females to have their adrenals in good shape when they start going into menopause, because the adrenal glands are meant to take over the function of the ovaries. So now your ovaries stop producing hormones, and the adrenal glands are totally capable of producing estrogen and producing testosterone and all the sex hormones. But it is a lesser degree than the actual ovaries, but they do take over that function. So you're already now going to be getting a bit less estrogen, a little bit less testosterone. Things like sex drive start to reduce. You start to put on a bit of a waist. You start to lose your butt, because some of the hormones that the adrenals are meant to produce, if they don't produce them, then it starts to make an imbalance of salt and potassium in your body. So it starts to suck the salt out of your body, and that causes headaches and and hot flashes and all of these types of things. So it's all to do with the adrenal glands. You need to make sure that your adrenal glands are in good shape. I have got some advice letters that I'll be putting on the podcast that you guys can download from our website once we're done here. All right, so that's the deal with balancing hormones. It's really about handling your adrenal glands, but also you've got to eat healthy. You've got to stay away from the dairy, the thick dairy. You can have your cream and your butter, because that's low hormone type stuff, and obviously make sure it's grass fed. But stay away from the milk and the cheese and all of that kind of thing, because that's animal stuff. Also, stay away from anything GMO. It's ridiculously destructive on estrogen production. So the glyphosate in the Monsanto pesticides mimics estrogen in the body, so that causes a whole hormone imbalance. So yeah, it's about the adrenals, and it's about eating properly, making sure that you're eating the right meat and a balanced meal. When I say a balanced meal, I'm not talking about the FDA food pyramid. That is absolute trash. Stay away from that. That will kill you. Look around you and see how unhealthy people are. They've been following that pyramid. You need to eat healthy. You need to eat lots of cruciferous vegetables. Cruciferous vegetables are one of the best things for balancing hormones. There's inositol as well for women, and DIM as well. DIM is a concentrated extract of cruciferous vegetables, in fact, and it balances out estrogen and so on in the body. So you can try all of those things. It's not easy, I know, being a woman and going through menopause, and I've seen it around me, and I can see that it's a hard thing to do. But it makes it a lot easier if you're eating the right stuff. If you're going to be eating the ultra-processed food and going about it the way you've been doing in the past, you're going to have trouble with menopause. So you can alleviate that by eating healthy. All right. So now the next one and the last question, these are the questions that were given to us before we started. Okay, this is a good one, and this has got a lot to do with the digestive system, which is what I'm going to get into now. So it's about the gallbladder and how does not having a gallbladder affect digestion? It messes up digestion terribly. So there's all sorts of symptoms that start to happen when you have your gallbladder removed. Sometimes, so very, very seldomly is it absolutely necessary to remove the gallbladder. That's when the thing's like packed up with stones, and it's just like, man, it's you open the guy up and it falls apart, and the stones fall out. Basically, that's the only time that it's necessary. The rest of the time, you can actually thin these things down, these stones down, break them down over time, so that it's a process. There's no doubt about it when you have lots of stones in your gallbladder. But when they remove your gallbladder, what starts to happen is you have a trickle of bile that trickles into your small intestine all the time. So you never have enough bile. You always have a little bit of bile. You never have enough bile for the food you've just eaten. So the food you've just eaten, if it contains protein and fat, then what happens is the gallbladder senses this, and it squeezes out the bile through a duct that goes into a little cavity just after your stomach, just before the small intestine. It's joined there by some enzymes from your pancreas, which sits on the other side, or kind of on the other side of your body. And they join up there, and they go in and they start to break down these proteins into small enough particles so that they can be absorbed through the intestinal walls as nutrients. So if you think about like a sock that you pour water in, and then all the water kind of pours out of a sock, and you put a very, very fine powder in there, and then some of that powder comes through with the water, and you put a thicker granulated type of powder, and it doesn't come through those little pores on the sides of the sock, or little holes. So that's what happens when your fat doesn't get broken down properly by the bile and the digestive enzymes. So what it means is you're eating your food and you're thinking, yummy, I'm eating healthy, and I'm taking my omega-3s, and I'm taking my vitamin A, my retinol, and I'm taking, all my fatty nutrients, but my skin's still dry, and, I've lost my eyesight, and all these things start to happen. And you don't understand why this is the case. Now, the case is that the gallbladder is not pushing out enough bile, or you don't have a gallbladder and it's dripping bile in, like nowhere near enough of the concentrated bile needed to break down that fat. In order for it to be broken down into small enough particles for it to go through those little holes, the small little holes on the sides of the intestine, and then they get absorbed as nutrients. So if those fat particles are too big, they go straight through, and then they start causing other digestive issues. And it caused issues in your colon and in your large intestine, because there's stuff in there now that shouldn't be there. So you'll find this in your stool. You'll find that your stool either floats, or it's a big pile, just comes out like in a big pile, and it's usually smells very bad, and it's very light in color. Normally, it can be like a light brown, orangey color, or even a grayish color. If it's a grayish color, then you're quite far gone as far as the digestive system goes. So those would be indicators of a lack of bile. So let's go back. I'm going to first now answer Kimberly, because she's got a great question to start off, how the digestive system works and how to fix it. So there's one fix that is normally the right fix for especially people over the age of 40 or approaching even the age of 40, is your stomach acid starts to become more alkaline, which means you start getting heartburn. When you get heartburn, it means your stomach acid is too alkaline. It's not too acidic. So now obviously you go to the doctor, and the doctor gives you an antacid, which makes the situation worse. You're not digesting your food. So you're putting food into your mouth, chewing it, it's going down into your stomach, and then the stomach acid is supposed to break it down so that it can go into the small intestine, and then it can sort it out there, and it can all be absorbed as nutrients, and then it goes into the rest goes into the large intestine. The microbes get on that, and they start eating it up, and then they spit out the rest out of the back door. And that's how the digestive system works. So what you have to do, Kimberly, is apple cider vinegar. What you should do is take a tablespoon of organic apple cider vinegar with the mother and freshly squeezed organic lemons. And there must be organic lemons because lemons are very porous, and if they are too heavily sprayed, they absorb those toxins almost more than any other fruit. So you got to get your organic lemons, and organic lemons generally don't look nice. They don't look like the nice round yellow lemons that you get in the upmarket grocery store. They're normally like deformed, a little bit like Quasimodo type lemons, So those are the lemons that you need to get, is the organic lemons. So then you take a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon of organic lemon juice, freshly squeezed organic lemon juice, and mix it with some sparkling water because it actually tastes quite nice. Then you drink that before you eat. Your stomach acidity rises to the right pH, the right balance of acidity and alkalinity. And then when you eat, it digests properly. So now, even when you're getting older, you can handle your digestion as far as the stomach digestion goes with the apple cider vinegar and that. And it doesn't only help with that. Apple cider vinegar has a lot of other functions that it helps with it. I was talking about Ozempic earlier. Well, apple cider vinegar actually works in a very similar way. So it keeps blood glucose very low, which means it keeps insulin very low, which means that's why people say you can lose weight when you drink apple cider vinegar. That's why, because it keeps your blood glucose lower than it would have had you not had it. So now we've had that step. You've eaten your food, it's gone into your stomach. The acidity is right now, and it's digested the food in your stomach correctly, so that it goes into the little compartment just after your stomach, before the small intestine. And now this is where the gallbladder and the pancreas come in. So your pancreas sits, I think you're looking at it, and that looks like my right side. I don't know if it's on your screen the same, but it's actually on your left side, and it kind of encroaches a bit onto your right side, just under the ribs. That's where your pancreas sits. Your gallbladder sits on the right side. Was I saying the right side? Sorry, the left side. And the gallbladder sits on your right side, just below your ribs over here. Okay, so now they both have their ducts that they send their enzymes and the bile in, and then they join, and it's called the common bile duct. Now, often what happens with sludgy bile, especially when someone's been on a low fat diet or high carb type of diet, then the bile becomes very sludgy, and it moves into that common bile duct and it blocks it. So now it starts to back up, and that'll start to give you a pain in your shoulder. So in the right side of your neck here, or your shoulder blade, just under your shoulder blade, or in your back, or your right shoulder. That would be an indicator that your gallbladder is backed up. If you have it in your left shoulder, it can mean that your pancreas has now got backed up. And that's a problem, because the pancreas has digestive enzymes. So if those lie around inside the pancreas after it's created them, it can actually start digesting itself. So you get this thing called pancreatitis. So you don't want that. Okay, so there is a little thing that you can do, is you stick your finger in just below your rib cage, just to the right of your sternum, and you do a little bit of you press in like a moderate pressure, not hard. You don't want to damage this, and you move it around like this. And what it can do is, it can dislodge a stone or the blockage that's in that common bile duct. So now you've got your food that's very acidic, because the stomach acid is going with it into this little compartment. The alkaline bile goes in there, and the digestive enzymes go in there, and they kind of make it a bit more alkaline, so it's not too irritating on the small intestine. Just to back up one little bit on the bile. So your liver creates bile. Create is it's kind of a wrong word, because bile circulates through your body. Probably over 90% of the bile that goes through your system goes back up and into your back into your liver. Your liver takes different hormones, and it uses stomach acid and different things, and it also takes all of the toxins that has been filtering out of your system, all the coffee you've been drinking for the day, and the alcohol and the ultra processed food, and it loads it into the bile, and then that goes in to your small intestine, and it starts to break down the fat, as I was explaining earlier, into small enough particles so it can be absorbed into the intestinal tract, into the small intestine. Now, that all those toxins, everything, the whole bile and the digestive enzymes go through, and when your stomach is acidic enough and there's enough acidity in your small intestine, the microbes from the large intestine that are meant to eat up all the waste products from your small intestine stay there because they don't like this acidic environment. But what starts to happen is when your small intestine becomes too alkaline from low stomach acid, from eating antacids and just generally getting old, those little microbes from your large intestine crawl through the little hole into your small intestine, and they start eating your nutrients up. And that's the problem. That's what they call small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO. So that can create all sorts of different things then. And so now you've got all these little microbes in your small intestine eating all your nutrients up, and you're low energy and you don't understand why, and all these things. And then again, another cascade of health issues start. Now suddenly you've got eczema, and you've got psoriasis, and you're getting whatever, you're not getting your vitamin D enough, so you're getting arthritis in your fingers, and all of that starts to happen. So all of these things are all connected, you see. So now you've got to keep that acidic. So now all this food goes down with your bile and your enzymes, breaking it all down, and it goes into your large intestine, and then those microbes grab it and they start, like taking out the good stuff and eating up the good stuff and pushing out the bad stuff. And so that's where they take all those toxins from your liver that your liver's filtered. They take it all out of the bile and they shoot that out the back door with all the waste products. And then the rest of that bile, the 90% of that bile, goes back into the system. It goes back up to the liver, and it enters the liver again, and the liver starts putting all these things back into it, and it acts as bile again, and it just circulates around your body. This is why a gallbladder or liver flush is a terrible thing to do. It's an absolutely ridiculous idea, because what will happen is you'll flush all of that bile out of your gallbladder, and you're not going to have bile for probably 3 to 4 weeks before your body starts creating it again. Can you imagine the havoc that's going to create with your digestive system? So now you're like, oh, I've done this whole gallbladder flush and liver cleanse thing with all the stuff that they've told you to take and in their little formats, and now you have other digestive issues. So don't do that. You don't need to do that. I mean, if I would do that if my gallbladder was full of stones and they were going to want to take my gallbladder out. I would do that as a last resort. I'd go, okay, cool. Let's see if I can get these stones out. I know someone who did that and it worked for them. But that's like the very, very last resort. Don't just think it's a fad and go and do a gallbladder cleanse. You'll be sorry. I can promise you right now, it'll mess with your health like you don't know. Now, another thing that also kind of happens when you have your gallbladder removed is you can start getting like joint pains, like all sorts of joint pains, because remember, you're not extracting fatty nutrients, vitamin D, K2, all of those things. So you start getting all sorts of joint pain. And very often it starts within 3 days of removing the gallbladder. Not everybody gets that, but a lot of people do. So if you have your gallbladder removed, you need to take bile salts or TUDCA every single meal. Like every single meal that you have, bile salts or TUDCA, and that would basically handle it. You'd be like a diabetic who doesn't have insulin, who has to inject insulin, every time he eats. It's the same thing. You'd have to inject through your mouth a bile salt or something like that to break it down. So that's how it all works. That's how the whole digestive system works, and it has so many functions. It's just too much to go into here, but I think you get an idea of, how it works and why it's important to make sure every part of it has its thing. And it is in, it is in good condition. Your stomach has to be in good condition. Your gallbladder has to be in good condition. Your pancreas has to be in good condition. You've got to have your small intestine working properly, and otherwise you're going to end up with all sorts of other issues that you don't want, and it's all to do with digestion. So as you can see, like if you think about it now, if you're eating the standard American diet, where it's all processed food, TV dinners, I'm not even going to say fast food, because I'm assuming that if you guys are on this thing, you're not eating fast food. So good. But you know what I'm talking about. If you're eating all that food and it contains all the stuff that messes with your digestive system all the time, and eating antacids and so many other things, imagine over time what that's going to do. And then you look around and you go, wow, so that a guy, and this is the problem. And I'm not knocking doctors here. Doctors definitely have their value, and they've helped me more than once. But the problem has become with medicine is that they're going to treat that symptom. They don't look for the root cause, which could have been something as simple as have some apple cider vinegar with your meal. I literally handled the guy who'd had years and years and years of digestive issues. I mean, not just one guy specifically, because he was like quite an extreme case where he could not digest food. He just couldn't digest food. It was excruciating for him to eat. Like he would eat and he would just get all these pains in his stomach, and it just was not working at all. And I thought, that just sounds like he's not digesting his food to me. I don't want to get too complicated about the whole thing. So there was other things that we needed to handle, but the main thing was apple cider vinegar and lemon juice. And we gave this guy apple cider vinegar and lemon juice. This guy had had digestive issues for 20 years. It was like in his 60s. And we gave him apple cider vinegar and lemon juice and water before his meal. And I promise you, I am not lying here when I say to you, within a few days, all of his digestive issues went away. It was like amazing that something like that could, something as simple, like a simple handling like that. So, I do call out to you to, really take this to heart. And this whole health thing is not just a fad. If you look at what Bobby Kennedy's doing now in the US, it's a big thing. It's a big thing what he's doing. He's trying to make people healthy again. It is such an issue that they actually had to employ someone who will handle the whole country as far as food goes. That's scary, because what's been happening is that you guys have been lied to all this time about food and told that this is safe and that is not safe. And it was the other way around. And it's very hard to get out of that mindset, like, oh, but I'm sure I should be eating this, and I'm sure. No, just eat what your body is meant to eat, and fix the damage, yes, with the digestive system that we need to fix, but just eat what you're supposed to eat. So when you do a program like this, like ours, we're not just like weight loss gurus. You do lose weight because your body's working properly, but that's not the point. The point is getting you healthy. If you get healthy, you will lose the weight. But you can't then go back after, doing a program like this and go, I can't wait for my cheat day. It's like, no, you've got to take on this lifestyle, man, because this is how you're going to survive. This is how you're going to live until you're 90, or 100 even. And, I was in the UK a few years ago, and I was astounded at how many people are over 100 years old in the UK, and their food is quite good there. I was amazed. It's like 100-year-old ladies walking down the road to catch the bus to go and, play bingo or something. That's because they haven't had what the US has had as far as food ingredients go. So don't be fooled by it. Really look into this as far as where you can find the healthy foods. And I'm telling you right now, it will change your life. It's not just a body thing. It's a spiritual thing too. You've got to drive this thing around in this lifetime, and if it's in bad shape, and it's so easy to fix it. I was in I was in the same position. I was just talking earlier in the video about how I would have been now had I not changed my diet. My digestion was already messed up. I was always constipated. It was just horrible, man. And within a few weeks, I was fine, and I was living life again like I should do. So yeah, I really reach out to you and ask you, please. That's not for me. If you do our program, that's great. We will really love helping people. But if you get to the end of the program, I have no interest in making money out of you at that point. I mean, I make money out of other things. That's how I run my business. But after that 8 weeks, I still have an interest in you continuing doing this and running your body the way we've taught you how to run it. And obviously it lightens up at the end of the program. There's a lot more, that you can eat, and there's a lot of recipes that make life nice again, But you've got to look at it from that point of view. It's not a matter of, your body's 20 years old and you can just eat anything you want to. Okay, cool. So, Stephen, you asked a question about what about non-menopause, like example, males. Okay. So how to balance hormones is the same thing. Again, you've got to make sure that you have, you're eating a healthy diet, and you need to know what a healthy diet is. And you've also got to not think that you know it all already. And I say this in the nicest possible way. It's like, you've got to realize that, and the fact that you're here makes me, obviously you don't think you know it all already, but you've got to realize that there's so many things to know about diet. There are so many things to know about, ingredients in food and how they lie to you and how to navigate that. It's a minefield, and it's a really covert little operation that these guys are running out there as far as how they manipulate these labels on food and that, so that you're eating things and you think that you're eating healthy and you're eating rubbish. Like a lot of vegans, they think, oh, I'm a vegan and I'm so healthy and this is great. And meantime, they're eating this probably the most processed food on the planet. So balancing hormones for a male, especially if you start to getting around my age, which, okay, so I'm 57, but even 45 to 50, older than that, there's something called DHEA that you should take. Have a look at how much you're supposed to take, though. If you take that every day, even with a woman, it helps you balance out hormones. It helps you produce. It's a precursor to testosterone and estrogen and all of these things. It's supposed to be manufactured in your body, but as you get older, it does it less and less. So it's called DHEA, and you must have a look at the what's prescribed on how much to take, because you can't take too much of it. So you can send me a direct message afterwards, and I can answer you as to how much I take. I'm not going to, recommend what you should take. So that is very good, and also anything to balance out hormones in men or women, especially if there's a major hormone imbalance. DIM, DIM. So DIM is like the extract of cruciferous vegetables, which is why people say eat cruciferous vegetables, because they're very healthy. So just be careful with them. It can do something really weird to your urine, is it makes it a very bright amber color. And that's just DIM metabolites busy doing their thing in your body. And you'll find that if you eat a lot of cheese, it flares up that color. Anything that's very hormony, any hormony type of food, you'll find that color. Because I've had people on my program, send me messages like, what the hell? I think my kidneys are bleeding. And they're not. And I go, oh, damn, I never told the guy about the DIM. So, so DIM is a very good one as far as getting your hormones running, your testosterone producing properly. DHEA is another good one. There's quite a lot of things like Tongat Ali is another product that we do in South Africa, because it boosts testosterone. There's a few things that can do it, and that's obviously the main thing with males is your testosterone levels start to drop, and your libido drops, and you start to lose muscle mass and all that kind of thing, and that's not necessary. You don't have to. What I would suggest is to all of you is find yourself, in actual fact, I'm going to punt my product here because we're about to launch a an amino acid product in the US that we have here in South Africa. It's the 9 essential amino acids. And we're going to have more amino acids that are going to help you retain muscle mass. You know, as you get older, you start to lose muscle mass as you lose testosterone, and you know, the whole cascade of deficiencies that a person gets as he gets older. So with amino acids, it's an interesting thing because that's what your body builds protein out of. So that's what it extracts out of your meat that you're eating, and it makes different kinds of protein to make different things in your body, build brain cells, skin cells, muscle cells, all that. So that's what amino acids do. And you need to have the right ones in the right amounts. So there's things like tryptophan in there. So tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin. When you have high serotonin levels, you have high melatonin levels, and that means you sleep well, you know. So these amino acids also take the strain off the liver, because obviously the liver has to do less work in extracting amino acids from meat. So you can lower your meat intake to about 4 ounces and then take amino acids, and there's no gap there. In fact, 4 ounces is enough. But if you take the amino acids, it'll give you that extra, and you'll be able to maintain your muscle mass. And you know, as you're getting older, that's one of the major things, especially with women in menopause. So a lot of women in menopause, they lose their butts and they lose their thighs, and it's purely because the adrenal is going to overdrive, producing cortisol, and then cortisol causes something where it's called protein neogenesis. So it takes protein and it turns it into glucose. It's trying to get you some energy, and it turns it into glucose, and that glucose turns straight into fat, and it places that fat around your adrenal glands because it thinks your adrenal glands are, you know, having a hard time. And your adrenal glands sit just on your back above your kidneys. So then you have this layer of fat around your waist. So if you've, like, you know, gone through menopause and you've lost your middle, you lost your Coke bottle shape, and you've got these skinny little legs now, and you know, you lost your butt. That's what's happened there. So what I would suggest is, you know, get some amino acids. I'll just watch the space. I'll put a link to ours. We have a very good blend of amino acids, and I am punting it, I know, and I'm not normally like that, but it is a very good blend of amino acids that'll give you everything that you need. And you know, that'll help you maintain that muscle mass as you get older. And it's not only just for muscle mass and skin tone and all of these types of things. It's also general health, you know, like it feeds the cells in your body. So your liver starts doing better, and your kidneys start doing better, and you know, everything starts doing better in your body because it has the what's extracted, you know, from the meat to make the proteins to build it, because those are the protein are the building blocks of the body, you know. So try amino acids. In the US, I know you've got the Minkoff Perfect Aminos. Those are great as well, and ours are probably going to be very similar. So I would do that. And the other thing is, just one last little free tip for you is, if you have wrinkles and you think you're starting to look old, and you even have like maybe little liver spots on your face or on your legs, so take 50% organic castor oil, 50% organic coconut oil, mix it up, keep it in a little bottle, use that on your face, use it on your hair, use it on your arms, use it on your legs. It's like a natural Botox. It makes your skin nice and plump, and it rejuvenates the cells in your skin. It's extremely good. I mean, castor oil has been used for thousands of years for all sorts of health issues. You know, again, if you're constipated, a quick handling would be, you know, rub castor oil on your tummy, and you don't drink it. You know, you can, but don't. So yeah, that's the deal. I hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and you have a better understanding of how the digestive system works. You know, it is definitely, you know, what one needs for good health is a good digestive system. You know, the other thing, quickly before I go, so the other thing that you can do for good health is intermittent fasting. So if you're on a healthy diet, do intermittent fasting. Don't do intermittent fasting if you're not on a healthy diet. That's actually unhealthy. It's not good for you if you do that, because that's literally starvation. get on a good diet. Intermittent fasting will handle your gut issues. It gives your gut time to rest and not digest food, and then it starts to build microbes and rejuvenate, intestinal tracts and all of those things. And it's definitely great for good gut health. Okay, so that's me done. I hope you really enjoyed it. We'll do another webinar next weekend, same time. You can send me subjects. Okay, I got a question here. How long fasting would be good to reset the system? You got to work up to it, but I would fast 2 days, like 48 hours. Make sure you have your electrolytes and your nutritional yeast for your B vitamins. But I would do 2 days. But if you're like just going along with this and intermittent fast, like eat at 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. That's it, and then just go that 18 hours again, 6 p.m., 12 p.m., 12 p.m., 6 p.m., and then go around a bit. And that's how I would do it, So you can go like 2 days if you want to. And then so next week we'll have another podcast. I'll send out. You can definitely message me ideas for this. I'm interested. You can even message it now. What I am going to do, I don't know if Charlie's on here, but Charlie mentioned last week that we should do a podcast on, how to survive in like this fire thing that they've had in California. It's quite a horrible thing. So, I wrote a thing about apocalypse food and what to keep and how to keep apocalypse food. And, I have a survival bag that I can just grab and run. So what I'll do is I'll make a video on that. I'll show you what's in the bag. I'll show you how to grow your own food, or what you need to grow your own food, and how to survive out in the middle of nowhere if you need to make a run for it. And you never know. I mean, I'm not talking about doomsday stuff. I'm just talking about, making sure that you are prepared. And when you're prepared, it generally doesn't happen, So I packed these bags, was it 4 years ago? And I the other day I thought I better go through them, and I was like unpacked everything, and they all smelled musty and all of that, But I saw what maybe I could put that in, or maybe I don't need that anymore, and I packed the bag again and made it a bit lighter and a bit more efficient, So I'll make a video on that on what you should keep in a bag like that, so that if something happens like a fire or a war or a tsunami or whatever it might be, hurricanes, and you've waited that little bit too long, and now you need to make a run for it, and it's like, okay, what do I take? You can grab that bag and you would survive with that bag. So that's a cool thing to have, and it's a cool thing to fall back on. Thank you very much for listening to me. I've rambled on long enough, and we'll do another one next week. I'll put it out on Facebook and all the other parts of the social media. And please follow us on Facebook and Instagram and all of those, and we'll chat again next week. Thanks for joining us.